Hey, hi all, and welcome to Kubetalk video chat on Kubernetes issues and topics. And I'm Rotem, I'm Director of Engineering from ARMO, and my greatest passion is Kubernetes coding, DevOps, basketball, but that's for like another show. And I'll upload every week those kinds of videos, and we'll have like variety of guests here. And if you have any comments, ideas, you can just ping me right here. And today's topic is actually Service Mesh and what it's all about. Here with me, Niran Even-Chen, product line manager at Tanzu VMware. Hi, Niran.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Great. So just tell us about yourself and the current role in Tanzu.
Yeah, so I'm Niran Even-Chen, or Niran Even-Chen. I live in North Jersey, next to New York City, and I work for a company called VMware. I'm sure most of the people listening know VMware. And I'm a product manager for our VMware, for our Service Mesh offering. It's called Tanzu Sevice Mesh. Tanzu is the product line of different tools and solutions around Kubernetes. And Tanzu Sevice Mesh is our Service Mesh offering, and I product manage it.
Cool, thanks. Well, like we're doing some of the breaking the ice questions in this show, and like I want to ask you, if you were a Kubernetes resource, where would you?
Yeah, so I thought about that, and I'm going to go with kubeproxy, because one of the things I do very well is connect people. So I'm guessing a kubeproxy would be the most adequate Kubernetes resource for me. People come to me a lot with different needs and requirements, and I connect them with other people. That's what I do.
That's a great answer, really. Okay, so let's now, we're here for a reason, so let's deep dive and talk about Service Mesh, actually. So I know like many of the audience knows what Service Mesh is, but please let us, a high-level description of what it is.
Yeah, so I guess like anything else in this industry, if you ask 3 people what something is, you get 3 different answers. Service Mesh is no different, but just what everybody agrees on, which is Service Mesh is an abstraction layer. It's supposed to abstract all the communication and security of communication between microservices out of the developers. So basically, developers can write code and everything that's relating to communication, whether it's service discovery and encryption and certificate management for the different workloads to connect securely and so on, would be managed by the Service Mesh. And now the Service Mesh is not written in the code. It's basically a configuration that's declarative and can be handled by a pipeline, by DevOps. So in essence, we remove a lot of the work from developers, reduce their need to know any infrastructure details, and we streamline the whole communication and configuration of the, I call it plumbing, between the different microservices to the mesh. The mesh itself usually has a component of a proxy. Mostly used in the industry is Envoy. And there's a component of a control plane that is sending configuration to those Envoy proxies or proxies. Obviously, there's different nuances in different vendors around how Service Mesh is implemented, but that's the general idea of all Service Meshes out there. I'll kind of lead to your future questions. Obviously, at VMware, we do additional things that I'd love to talk about later, but that's the answer about Service Mesh. Great.
So, having said that, let's like move to the Tanzu Service Mesh and what it's different than the other, Service Mesh we have, or even just implementing Istio in your cluster straightforward.
Yeah, so Tanzu Service Mesh is a SaaS service that basically acts as first and foremost as a federated control plane for different service meshes. there's two things that define VMware that you see reflecting significantly within the product. The first is that as an infrastructure traditionally vendor, we are very cloud agnostic. We're not specific to Amazon or Google or others. VMware actually lives in all these clouds and also connect to non-VMware technology underneath. And that's one aspect of our product, which is more cloud agnostic, and we connect services across different clouds, whether they run on VMware technology or just EKS, AKS, managed Kubernetes. It doesn't matter. Tanzu Sevice Mesh aims at being kind of a cloud agnostic solution to connect services across different places, including on-prem, obviously, where we live traditionally as well. The second aspect of Tanzu Sevice Mesh that is very VMware specific is around abstractions. So VMware traditionally, that's what we do, right? We started with abstracting the compute, the servers. We've done kind of virtualization of the network as well to abstract out the physical network with software-defined networking. That was kind of started at VMware. Service Mesh is just the evolution of that. We're taking what I just discussed with you previously about what Service Mesh is, those table stakes abstractions for communication, and we're building on top of it a lot of additional capabilities around security, around configuration and federation and multi-cloud that I don't think any other vendor is touching. And that's because we know how to take an abstraction and extract more value out of it. I hope that makes sense, the jumble of words that I threw out there, right?
No, that makes a lot of sense. And you talked about like connecting to the managed Kubernetes on the on-prem Kubernetes. So how do you actually do that? Okay, what's the whole package?
Yeah, so if you look at different service meshes, they focus on connecting services within a cluster, and some have some capability around connecting across different clusters. Most vendors of service mesh that are very cloud specific, if you look at Google or Amazon and so on, or platform specific like OpenShift, and there's some smaller vendors that are doing more of an agnostic vendor agnostic solutions. What we do differently is we kind of abstract the abstraction. We created something called global namespaces, which is a component of our SaaS. It's a logical component that you define in our SaaS, and you define which service is supposed to communicate with one another. That's kind of the basic idea, right? And then you build on top of that. What the system would do, it would basically send configuration down to the different service meshes that are deployed on different clusters, and then down into the actual services, which allows us to abstract those services from the infrastructure, meaning I can take that service now and run it in any Kubernetes cluster, whether it's running on VMware TKG, let's say, or it's running on EKS, it doesn't really matter. We will support all of them. And the configuration of that service will follow where the service is. So in essence, basically you can burst or expand to any cloud or any Kubernetes cluster, and configuration will automatically work because we build a federation service that sends those configuration down. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Like, I have like another question regarding that. Like, if I have several of managed cluster, from different kinds, can I connect them with Service Mesh or with Tanzu?
Yes, we created a way for us to interact, utilizing Istio underneath the covers. We kind of deploy it's a vanilla Istio on each one of those clusters. Though it is managed by us. And then our ability is either to rewire those Istio deployments using native tools within Istio. So automate the Istio configuration. So service entries and certificate management. We do some magic underneath, obviously, to make sure that trust between certificate in different places is trusted. We have a lot of work that we've done on that saves the customer a lot of work regarding automating the whole service mesh itself and doing it across different infrastructures. But then we also doing things beyond just using Istio directly with Envoy around our API security capabilities and our security policies and identifying OWASP attacks and so on. We utilize the actual directly in front of Envoy configuration. So there's different things we do within our mesh to create those capabilities.
Actually, that was my next question. Like, what's in Tanzu? Besides of just implementing the Istio Envoy service mesh. So, is there anything else you can share about the architecture?
Yeah, so beyond what we talked about, what traditional service meshes do, which is service discovery, traffic management, access control policies, and certificate management and MTLS encryption, those type of things exist in, that's like table stakes. Customers expect that from a mesh. We provide additional capabilities that do not exist in other meshes. One is API management and API security. So beyond just saying service A cannot speak with service B, again, no matter where they run, it can be on-prem and off-prem, Azure and Google, it doesn't matter. We can say that, but we can also go down to the level of identifying all the API calls within my application, allowing the customer to document them. So, that's one big aspect of API management, is knowing which API are being used and being able to document that, but also take that baseline of API calls and make it a policy, let's say in production, where we can lock down the API calls that are happening between services. So what happens is that if service A does get from service B, but then service C comes and does get from service B, we can block it. So we can actually either alert or control the API calls up to the level of parameter, like which parameters are running on those API calls. So it's full API management and security, and that's one big aspect of our product. The second one is around personal identifiable information, so PII data, like social security numbers, ID numbers or ABA numbers, if it's routing. There's a bunch of them, right? We can create policies that basically identify which services are exchanging PII data with other services. And then again, we can block it. So data leakage protection. Service A is pulling credit card information from service B, and it's fine. But then if someone hijacks service C and tries to pull a credit card information, we'll block it and we'll make sure. And we're talking east-west. These are capabilities that they usually traditionally live in the north, load balancer, whatever solution you got there. The other additional capabilities around OWASP attacks. So kind of creating a WAF capability in east-west and identifying things like SQL injections and being able to alert. And in the future, we're not doing it yet, but also stop them. And that was that. And I think that, that's enough, right? But, we do, there's other things we do that not traditionally live in service mesh. Service mesh generates a lot of information about application health. One of the things we do, we have autoscaler, a very intelligent autoscaler that can autoscale services in different clouds. Again, it's not dependent on the Kubernetes autoscaler. That basically, if there's a latency threshold being crossed, we can start autoscaling the service to reduce the latency down. So those 4 capabilities I mentioned do not, it's unique to VMware.
Yeah, I get it. And which monitoring system are you taking those info out, or there's variety of Prometheus?
We use the information coming from the proxies. This is where the VMware special sauce is. We utilize what's coming from Envoy, but then our system will digest that and process it. If there's a decision to make around autoscaling, then we'll utilize just we're basically going to change the replica number within the deployment and on the local Kubernetes, but we will control that in a way centrally, right? And if you have a service in Amazon on in Amazon, let's say EKS, that you need to autoscale because latency went to a certain level, you start spinning up more services based on the rules that you set. And we'll do the same in Google or on VMware TKG locally.
Yeah, totally get it now. Well, Niran, I learned a lot from this session. And
that's it?
Nah, not really. That's it. I have a last question.
Okay.
You're not running anyway. And we're finishing, this talk with like an influencer or podcast or article you recommend, you viewed this week, and I'm sure our audience will be very happy to hear.
Yeah, so one of the best bloggers, let me just find the URL, and you can put it also afterwards, I assume.
Right.
His name is Michael Gash. Twitter is mbano1, so embano1, and he has a blog called mgash, the most comprehensive blog around DevOps and Kubernetes and declarative and event-based, driven-based programming. So I learned so much from this blogger. He's a colleague of mine, actually, not directly, but he works at VMware, and I know him personally. Super nice guy, like the nicest guy you've ever met. Like he's not. I don't know if his niceness is matching his personality. Amazing person. So definitely suggest people will go and watch that blog or read that blog, and I'll send you the link so you can.
Yeah, I'll take that and put it right here on the video, and maybe we'll invite him also for for a Kubetalk.
You should put a disclaimer for people to watch it in slow motion so they can understand everything he talks about, because very smart guy.
We'll do that. Well, Niran, thanks a lot for being here today, and getting to know very much Tanzu and Service Mesh in general. It's been a pleasure, and we'll meet you soon.
Thanks, Toda.
Thanks, Toda. Bye bye.